Okay, so welcome everybody officially to our ankle and foot workshop from Egoscue, kind of joint hosting here. So I'm Zach Veers. I'm the clinic owner and therapist here in Seattle, and my partner here, Martin McFarland, he'll be helping out. He's down in Portland, so we'll both be kind of tag teaming this today. But actually, Martin, why don't you introduce yourself first, if you don't mind? You're still muted. Sorry, I muted everyone.
There we go. Hello, I'm Martin McFarland, and I am the director of the Egoscue Portland Clinic, and I've been practicing the method coming up on 22 years now. And I was introduced to the method, gosh, back in 1999 by my boss. At the time, I was experiencing chronic hip and back pain that I'd had for over 10 years at that time. And I was working in the fitness industry, and it was very frustrating because I was lean and fit, and I could do all the functional fitness exercises, but I had extreme pain. And my story goes, it was getting to the point where it was starting to interrupt my work performance, my sleep cycles, my relationships, my outlook on life. And so my boss, she was getting frustrated too at the time, so she introduced me to the pain-free book. And ultimately that led me to getting a personalized session, like many of you have done. And I was like blown away when I saw my posture photos, how imbalanced I was. Even though I was young and lean and fit, I had some very severe compensations. I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 3. I had injured my hip and back when I was 19. I was a professional bike rider, and I crashed. And that crash plagued me for over a decade. And so when I went for a session, I was amazed how different I felt after doing just a few simple exercises. And all of my clients at the time were experiencing some sort of pain or body aches or functional limitations. So I'm like, wow, I have to learn this method so I can help other people with it. And that's really what got me started on my journey.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a great story. And it's a similar background for me. Although I haven't been doing this quite as long. I started about 7 years ago. Well, I learned about it a little before that. I was in college studying exercise sciences, also doing some personal training. And one of my professors introduced it to me, and it had been a lifesaver for him and his back problems. And at the time when I first learned about it, I thought, oh, this is great, something I can use for my personal training clients, just, help prevent injury or heal from pain. But of course, being, 20 something and thinking I was invincible, I thought, it's not something I need, right? I'm perfect, right? So, well, turns out I had my fair share of postural issues, and that led to some back and shoulder pain when I was playing a lot of racquetball in grad school. And so I decided maybe I should give this Egoscue a shot for myself. And sure enough, I saw, I got my pictures taken and could see like exactly what was going on with my body alignment and how that was causing my pain, and did the exercises. And of course it helped me feel better as well. And so allowed me to keep playing my racquetball and being active without any pain anymore. So that's kind of what got me started. And I got the job out of grad school working with Martin in the Portland clinic as a therapist. And then about 5 years ago, I moved to Seattle to open up my own clinic here. So here I am. And today's topic being about foot and ankles, I thought this would be relevant to share. So a little bit more about just my own personal experience with this. So these are pictures of my lovely feet and ankles about 4 years apart. So that 2014, that was when I was first starting to get into Egoscue. So I found some old posture photos, one of my first, if not my first posture photos from back then. And then compared again to a few years later. But anyway, so obviously in the top photos, you can see my left more than my right, but both ankles are pretty collapsed, pretty pronated, or my feet were flattening out. If they weren't completely flat, but they were heading that direction. And I had the whole, custom orthotics made when I was a teenager and had been wearing those for several years. And was just told, like, you've got flat feet, you pronate, you're going to have to just wear these orthotics, and that's just how it is, or it's genetic or whatever. So I was like, okay, just, that's what everyone's taught me. So it wasn't until I started investigating Egoscue and learning that it's not necessarily true, that I could change, and that there was more to it than that. So I started, this was after doing Egoscue, of course, but also I got rid of my orthotics and switched to a more minimalist barefoot shoe, which we'll talk about later. But for me, it made a huge difference. And you can see how they're not perfect, but much better in the ankle position. You can actually see some arch happening there. The feet are pointed straighter, which also helps. And I like just, if you look at the angle of my Achilles tendon here, this on the backside, especially on this left, how it bows in like that, you can see they're a lot straighter after a few years. So just showing how, we hear that a lot of clients, and maybe some of you experience or have this condition as well, of flat feet or weak ankles, or, any variation of that. Just shows how you can make a difference, and it's not going to be an overnight fix, but it can change. And so just thought I'd share that. So talking to you folks, participants, what have you been diagnosed with? These are some of the common issues that we deal with in the clinic relating to feet and ankles: bunions, hammertoes, plantar fasciitis, arthritis, bone spurs, flat feet, we mentioned Morton's neuroma. So maybe you can relate to some, or one or multiple of those conditions. But does anybody have any, if you're okay sharing, if you go ahead and unmute or put it in the chat, anything else that I don't have on that list? Any other things that maybe you're curious to learn more about? Or does that cover it? Assuming we covered it there. Oh, we've got a few chats here. Tarsal tunnel, okay. Neuropathy, okay, yeah, we do see a lot of that. Weak ankles, flat feet, Ehlers-Danlos, yeah. So, okay, good. So these are all, we're not going to really have time to go dive deep into each of these symptoms, but cramping, okay. Yeah, but these are all issues that we've seen in the clinic, and that we've seen improve, with doing Egoscue and proper footwear. So, yeah, I think at Egoscue, I guess one of the takeaways here is that we look at things a little differently, meaning when you come in with these symptoms or diagnoses, we want to ask the question why, and not just the normal answer that you've probably heard from your doctors or the internet about your age or genetics or whatever, but rather like really what's causing it. And especially if you have something on one foot but not the other, and then you have to really think, okay, well, why? Both feet are the same age, they've got the same genetics, like why would one foot develop something differently than the other side? So that's what we're first step in figuring out and curing, or treating your problems, is we have to know the cause. And so the pain is not necessarily a sign of damage, or that there's anything even inherently wrong or that's unfixable. It's just a warning. And so these warning signals, kind of like the check engine light on your car. You need to pay attention to them if you want to fix the problem, at least. And rather than just ignoring it or shutting off the light or shutting off this pain signal by taking pain medication, or even, you could argue, wearing like an like an orthotic or something that artificially puts your foot in a better position, but it's not really fixing it. It's just going to prolong the inevitable. So we have to listen to our body's signal and investigate it, and then treat the actual cause versus just the symptom. So what is the cause? Well, these are some, as I mentioned, a few things that people typically blame their pain on. But none of the, well, the job you have some control over, but your age and your genetics, you don't have any real control over that. So rather than focusing on those things, let's look at, okay, well, what could there be something with your lifestyle or your posture, your activity levels that has something to do with it? Those are things you can change. And so obviously, as if you're not already aware, Egoscue, we're a posture company. We're focused on body alignment. And so, it's a pretty simple concept. And I think most people, it makes sense that when our bodies are out of alignment, just like this house, they're not going to be very stable. They're more likely to break down, to hurt, and just be more susceptible to stress. So now, what is posture? We're really talking about the entire body here. So there's a foot posture, there's an ankle posture, there's, just like there's a posture we think about for our head and our shoulder positions. All the joints in the body need to be lined up properly. And when they're not, it puts extra stress on the various parts. And so basically, it's all about balance. We'll talk specifically what it looks like in a second. But it's really, when we use this word posture, I just want you guys to know that it's about how all those joints are functioning together. They need to all have their own job and not be doing extra work that they're not designed for, because that's what causes things to start to break down or deform prematurely. So really, our bodies are designed to move. That's what it comes down to. From a young age, we start moving and start rolling over, sitting up, crawling, standing, walking. They're all really important stages. And then we're designed to be moving our entire lives. And if we don't, which modern lifestyle doesn't really support, right? Where most of us have jobs where we sit too much, or we're not sitting at work, we're probably sitting at home, we're sitting in our cars. We may exercise occasionally, but we're really not moving as much as our bodies are designed to. If you think back to when you were a kid, I think most of us can remember always moving and playing sports or just games, playing at the playgrounds, things like that we don't do anymore. And so our bodies develop these muscle imbalances. We're not using some muscles enough. Maybe we're overworking or overstressing other areas. And so we develop, bones do what the muscles tell them to do. So if our muscles are out of balance, it's going to cause an out of balanced posture. And I'm getting some questions in the chat. Yes, we are going to be recording this and sending the recording out after the fact. So make sure, if you haven't, I think everybody's probably RSVP'd and sent an email. If not, make sure you email me, Seattle@Egoscue, so I have your email address so I can send you the recording. All right, so eliminating pain, just in summary here, obviously, as we don't want to just get rid of that signal, like covering up the check engine light. That'd be the equivalent of, taking just pain medications, which none of these things are bad, by the way. Sometimes they're definitely necessary, but as a long-term solution, we want to ask the question, okay, are we really fixing the problem, the why, or are we just covering up the what, the symptom itself? Surgery, same thing. Is it going to fix the problem or just, take away some of the effects of the problem? Resting on vacation, sometimes super necessary, but once again, we can't rest forever. We need to be back to our daily lives. And also, we don't want to have to give up, me giving up the racquetball. I could have just given up racquetball, right? Instead of treating the cause of my pain, could have just avoided the things that hurt. But eventually you start limiting yourself more and more, and that's a slippery slope to follow that we don't want to do. So let's talk about what the posture is really quick. I'll turn the time over to Martin to describe this.
All right, so when you come in and you do a personalized session in the clinic, what we look at and what we focus on is the 8 load joints: ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders. And what we look for is, are they vertically stacked and are they at right angles? So we look for any deviations in all the planes, right? Is there an elevation in the hip? Is there a rotation? Is there asymmetries left to right? So what we do is we look at the foot and ankle, and then we kind of work our way up to see how the knees are tracking with the ankles, right? It should be a vertical line, knees to the hips and hips to the shoulders. And so everything should be, also the center of gravity is just centered right down the middle, right? If everything is square. And so from the side, if you want to forward it, Zach, what we look for is that vertical line, right? The spine is designed to be an S curve. So we put that line in and we see how those low joints are tracking on that vertical line, right? And from there, what we do is then we can create some common themes with how the body's deviating from our anatomical design. So, we don't like to focus on symptom, but when people come in, we look at, and we talk about what's hurting, but we want to look for the root cause, right? What's causing that pain? What's the dysfunction? And that's really the guiding force with therapy. So, and today we're talking about obviously foot and ankle. So when we assess gait, it's one of the things we look at. Are you striking heel ball toe? Are your feet turning out or sometimes turning in? Are you pronating? Are you supinating? Right? Are you walking in a straight line? Oftentimes we'll see people as they walk down the hall or in the office, they'll start to list or lean to one side, and they're not able to walk straight because one side of their body is not engaging. So all those things give us insight into how our bodies or your bodies are deviating from our anatomical design. These are things we see all day, every day in the clinic. Bunions are especially popular right now, especially because what I've been told by a few podiatrists is on average, 95% of shoes are too narrow. And so bunions are common in that scenario when you try to stuff your foot in a narrow shoe. The problem is, the narrow shoes are designed to, look pretty and be stylish, but they're not very functional. And when the widest part of the foot is actually the toes, right? And so the widest part of your shoe should be the toe box. And if it's not, you just get a constricted force, and over time it's going to create bunions as well as a dysfunctional foot strike as well. You think of those bunions as like your body, laying down bone. It's basically like a callus, right? You're putting more force there and you're not using your feet evenly, how they're designed. And the bottom picture shows another common thing that we see a lot, heel pain could have a bone spur, heel spur, the fascia can get inflamed. Those are all common things that we see, but you got to look at the big picture. It's not just the foot. Again, going back to what's the root cause. You want to look at the knee position and the hip position and see how those 3 joints are interacting with each other.
Yeah. I liked what you said about the shoes, and I think we'll talk about the shoes in a second, but the toes being the widest part, that's pretty rare nowadays. I mean, you don't see too many people whose feet are really healthy like that. If you don't mind sharing, Martin, I think you have pretty, you want to show your monkey
feet? I have great feet.
You've got like,
let's see here, where is it? Can you see it?
Yeah. So notice how like his toes, that they like the tip from the edge of his pinky toe to the edge of his big toe is actually wider than like the kind of the ball of the foot, like where the bunions would be. So most people think this is the widest part of their foot, but really that big toe should track like in a straight line from this bone here. Can you guys see my cursor, my mouse here? Okay, yeah. So this, if we drew a straight line here, the big toe really should be pointed like that way. And so, but like I said, you don't hardly see that anymore because most people's shoes are too narrow. And then that combined with improper loading of the foot itself, just it's a double whammy, you know. So hammer toes, another symptom of a postural deviation. So it's basically your toes are gripping the ground to try to create some stability, right? So if you're lacking that stability for various reasons, your toes are going to like grip and scrunch up and to try to support your body, and which may be helpful in the short term, but in the long term that can cause pain and you know, and plus it just doesn't look good, right? So any questions so far, by the way? Feel free to chime in. You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. No worries. Good. Okay. Oh, we did have a question. I migrate to pretty straight, but my others point laterally. Interesting. Like, so your big toes here and your other toes are pointed out the opposite way with a greater gap. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That'd be interesting to see what's going on with the rest of your body that might be contributing to that. Or now, granted, there's some natural like just differences between people and how their, you know, length of their toes and stuff like that, that, you know, we're all a little unique in that regard, but the basic structure and alignment should be, you know, as we talked about. If you ever look at little kids' feet, maybe not like newborn babies, actually, it takes a while for the arch of the feet to develop. But if you look at like toddlers or young children, unless they've been restricted by shoes too soon, their feet are usually pretty perfect still. If you look at their toes, you know, spread out wide like that. That's a really good example of healthy feet, what they're supposed to look like. Correct toes, how nice. That's a good product. Correct toes, they're like spacers you put between your toes, and it helps to kind of correct that. So, okay, so talking about shoes, I know this is a controversial topic, but our opinion here at Egoscue, and really it's not just our opinion, there's a lot of people out there now that I think see the value in more minimalist shoes. But basically, when you're looking at a shoe, we want something that's going to interfere as little as possible with your foot's natural function. Meaning, if you think about well, heels are kind of an extreme example, but even like most athletic shoes, you've got a ton of cushioning. The heel is elevated relative to the toes. You know, you may not think of them as heels, but if you look at the side profile, you know, it's thicker on the heel than under the toes. There's usually some kind of molded like arch support, and then the toe box is pointed, tapered. So we want the shoe to be flat, you know, to mimic being barefoot. You know, our feet should be flat, heel same level as the ball and toes, wide at the toes, like Martin talked about, and flexible to allow our foot to actually move and feel the ground. So it needs to be thin, relatively thin, as well. So now, caveat here is, of course, not everybody can just go cold turkey. And like, if you're used to wearing really cushy shoes and orthotics, we're not saying you need to throw them away and go barefoot all of a sudden, because you're probably going to run into more problems if you do that. Okay. But these are just like, in an ideal situation, this is what you'd be wearing. And it may take time to transition to that, but I think that most people can get away with a barefoot shoe eventually and really benefit from it. So my shoes are actually in the other room. I'll grab them in a sec. Do you have your lens, Mark?
I do, yes.
So this is one brand. There's a lot of good barefoot shoes out there, but you'll see the common theme, as I mentioned, is they're flat, they're wide at the toe box, they're flexible, so you can bend them and twist them and stuff. And they're, you know, it's the shoe's function is really just to keep your foot protected from getting, you know, scraped or poked or getting too cold. So that's really what shoes should be. If you look back on the human history, it's only in the last, you know, 50, 60 years that shoes started having all this, you know, arch support and cushioning and stuff. And so our feet are designed to be barefoot, you know, and that's kind of how our bodies should function. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I really recommend this. If you go on YouTube and search shoespiracy, like conspiracy, but for shoes. It's a really interesting little mini documentary about this topic and how footwear came to be where it is now, and how damaging it is for our feet. And it was put out by a company called Vivo Barefoot, which is a brand of shoes I really like. I used to wear them exclusively. So I know this is a lot of stuff. Anybody have questions about shoes or orthotics while we're on the topic? Got some people in the chat. So Dr. Ray Callahan, Northwest Foot. Yep. So that's right close to the Portland and clinic. So you can look him up, Northwest Foot and Ankle, 5-finger shoes. I used to have them and have very flat feet. Not sure if they helped or not. Yeah, I mean, those are a similar idea. They just, you know, they're trying to mimic being barefoot while still protecting your foot. So I think they're great. You know, if you like them, I don't wear them. I prefer the shoe like what Martin just showed you that still looks kind of like a shoe and covers all the toes. But it's this functionally, they're basically the same. So yeah, I think they're good. Now, not sure if they helped or not. You know, if you just switch your shoes and do nothing else, you would probably see some benefits. In fact, there's research showing that doing that will actually help strengthen the muscles in your feet and should create more stability and balance. But I think you also still need to address the rest of the body, the posture. If there's foot issues, there's probably issues going up the body in those other joints as well. And if we just focus in on the feet and ankle, we might be missing a big piece of it. Yes, you can hike in them. I hike, that's all I wear. So there's hiking versions that have like a little more grippy grips on the bottom, but still same structure. PT recommended striking mid or front foot for a softer foot landing. What do you think of that? In a running situation, sure. When you're walking, you should still, I think, strike in the heel. But, you know, I guess we would need more context. But generally speaking, walking, you should land on the heel first, then the ball, and then the toes. Running.
They recommended that more swinging gait and more front foot so that then my hips aren't hurting. I can't remember what they called the gait. The lots of loose swinging, and it's kind of semi based off yoga, I think.
I'm not familiar with that. Martin, do you have any?
Is that chi walking?
Yes, chi walking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I've heard of it.
So yeah, we like to work it from the inside out. You know, anytime you have to consciously think, it can be beneficial initially, you know, focusing on your gait, focusing on heel, ball, toe strength, but ultimately you want it to be unconscious, right? As you change the muscle memory, it'll become more unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So really, when your body is balanced and functional, you don't have to create, you know, a secondary, you know, compensation to try to walk more functionally. It should be natural.
Just showing my the shoes. I've got the same ones as Martin. So they're Lems. No, not, you know, there's, like I said, there's a few good brands out there. This is just what I'm wearing currently, but they all have flat, you know, wide at the toes and flexible. So that's kind of your test, those things you, when you're looking at shoes. The other thing.
How do you spell it?
Lems. I'll put it in the chat.
Lems.
The other brand I like is Vivo Barefoot.
There's a lot of companies out there making more minimalist shoes now.
Yeah, there's actually a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton. And you definitely don't want to go from a stiff soled shoe with an orthotic, you know, with the 1/2 inch, you know, elevation in the heel to something that's totally flat. You know, you want to work your way down. So somebody mentioned earlier, Northwest Foot Ankle and Dr. McClanahan. That's a great website. If you go to that website and you click on resources, he has a shoe list, right? Pros and cons. That's great. And he also talks about how to transition from a stiff shoe to something more minimalist. So like Zach was saying earlier, you know, you just don't want to, you know, buy some limbs and then, you know, go hike out in the gorge or, what do you got up in Seattle? Mount Rainier, right? So it's definitely, you know, there's a strength training phase that you need to go through so you don't injure yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, but you know, if you can, so of those three things, flat, wide, and flexible, if you can find a shoe that's maybe 2 out of the 3, you know, that might be a good place to start that transition your way there. And as far as the test you can use to know if they're wide enough, is if you take the insoles out, put it on the ground, go barefoot or with socks on, and stand on it, just the insole without the shoe. And then look to see if your toes, because with the weight of your body, your toes will naturally kind of spread out and splay. And so if your toes extend past the edge of your insole, then you know that your shoe is going to be restricting that, because your toes need to go this far, but your insoles are only that wide, right? So then you know that they're probably too narrow. So many of us already go barefoot as much as possible at home so they don't hurt. Yeah, great. That's another part of the picture is, you know, just going barefoot whenever you can indoors. But even trying, if you've accustomed to that, if you can already go barefoot inside, maybe try doing some walking on your lawn barefoot, or go to the beach, or, you know, find a trail that doesn't have a lot of rocks and go barefoot there, and just start engaging your feet like that. Because there's like, you know, I don't know how many, but a lot of nerve endings on the bottom of your feet. And it's kind of like our hands. They're meant to feel a lot of things. And if we're always cushioning them and patting them and babying them, then we're never really stimulating that part of our foot and our bodies. So, all right, cool. I think we can move on here, but lots of, if you're not already, you can look in the chat. There's been a few people put a few different resources here. The clinic we mentioned, I put the names of the shoe brands I like, and some other people mentioned Katie Bowman. Yeah, she's got some good stuff on feet too. All right, well, let's talk about posture. Let's practice. This is your chance, audience, to practice what we just learned about posture and, you know, those load-bearing joints. So I want you to open it up now for anybody to point out whatever you see here on this client that looks off to you, just based on the description we had earlier. Maybe I'll show you again real quick. So remember, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, straight lines, horizontal, vertical, side view, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle. All right, so go ahead and put it in the chat. What do you see? Or unmute yourself. What's off with this guy? Head is forward, good. A whole lot. I mean, the ear should be on that line, and he's barely touching the back of his head, so he's got a ways to go, huh? What else? Off of midline in both hips and knees. From the front you're talking about? Yeah. Yep, so he's kind of shifting his weight to his left. Hip rotation, chest is sunken. Yeah, that's, so we would talk about the thoracic back being flexed, or a little bit of kyphosis there, like rounding in his upper back, makes that kind of chest be sunken, as you mentioned. Good. What else? Hips forward. Yep, so from the side view here, first thing was mentioned was the head, but, and this is a common mistake, a lot of people know now how important the forward or the head position is, and we talk about forward head and posture a lot. Most people, though, outside of Egoscue are going to just try to think that's a neck issue, like, oh, you just need to strengthen your neck and do chin tucks and stuff like that. But you have to look all the way down to the bottom, and especially at the hips. And if they're forward, like is in his case, that already is putting all the joints above it ahead of where they should be, right? So his neck may not be a whole lot, you know, very forward relative to his shoulders, but if his hips are bailed out in front of him like that, it's just going to bring everything with it. So that's why we have to work on the hips too. Shoulders forward, good. Hips forward, pelvis tipped forward. Yep, good. You guys are seeing that. Knees out of line. Ankle dorsiflexion. Yeah, so just being generally that, all describing that same thing, just having the hips, everything from the side view is forward. So think about how this relates to foot and ankle. So think about like his feet down at the very bottom, having to bear 100% of the weight of his body. And if all those joints are not stacked up properly, what is that doing to the pressure on his feet? I mean, it's changing it, right? We know it's not going to distribute the weight the same way he would if everything was stacked up, right? So this is why we have to look at the whole body, because you know, that's going to, just that right there, if we knew nothing else, we didn't even look at him walk, but just looking at his posture, we can assume some things about you know, where his foot pain might be coming from. So all right, so this is him a few weeks later, and obviously he's made some improvements, but what specifically, what do you see that looks different now? Oh, wait.
Well, the alignment of the head, certainly.
Yeah, so his ear is on the line now. It's awesome, right? And what was it, just his neck that he pulled back all the way, or what else happened below his neck?
Oh, the shoulders.
Yeah, shoulders and his hips, right?
Yeah.
Everything, yeah, pretty much everything is better. So he's more centered. If you look at the front view, you know, he's not leaning over to the left anymore. Nice and centered on that line, which is great. So you can assume his weight distribution in his feet is more 50-50 like it should be. Yeah, good. So this just shows, like, you know, posture is not something that's you're stuck with forever. It's always changing. It's adapting to what you're using your body for better or for worse. And you know, this is the result of him implementing his exercises on a daily basis and making changes to those muscles. And as a result, he looks better, but more importantly, he feels better, right? He's able to now function at a much higher level and do a lot more things without pain, because he's not fighting against all these, you know, crooked positions. So how long did he do his exercises for? I think between these two photos, it was about 8. It was after our 8-session program. So about 2 months, maybe 3 months. So just going to show a few other before and afters, just to show potential. Was that someone tried to say something that broke up? Maybe. Okay. So this guy on the top looks pretty crooked, right? I think he was in the middle of a back spasm too, so that probably made things even more exaggerated, but just very off center, not loading both sides of his body at all. Stuck in flexion, meaning his spine is rounded forward, his knees are bent, his hips are tucked under. I mean, just everything is out of whack here. So obviously much better here. And here's some good examples of just showing how it can affect, you know, it can benefit people of all ages. So this guy in his 20s and this lady was in her 70s at the time. And so it's never too late. Your posture can always be improved. This lady right here, one of my favorite clients, she was, like I said, upper 70s. I think she's 80 something now, but she would hike and photograph wildlife or wildflowers, and she had a blog too. It was like really cool for someone for her age to be doing that. And but she had like pain in various places in her body, and that was preventing her from enjoying her blogging and hiking. And so it was just really fun to see how she made those changes and was able to keep hiking, you know, like pretty significant hikes, you know, not just short little day hikes, but 10-mile, you know, hikes in the mountains. So just shows the potential of our bodies, even at towards the end of our lives. It's never, you know, never too late. So Okay, well, I think that's enough talking for me. Why don't we show you guys some things, some examples, and we're going to take you through a few exercises. And just once again, caveat here is these are just generic exercises that we try to choose that most everybody should be able to do. But if you can't do it, that's okay. If you have pain when you do any of these, just stop and maybe talk to us afterwards. But these obviously are not going to be the perfect exercise for everybody, but we'll take you through a few examples just so you can get an idea of the potential for Egoscue. So Martin, why don't you take us through a weight distribution test here?
Sounds good. All right, so I'm gonna have everyone stand up, and you wanna take your shoes off and preferably your socks off too, if you're comfortable with that. Give everybody another minute here. Shoes off, socks off. And what I want you to do is just march in place a few times and just allow your feet and knees to go wherever they'd like to go. And then when you stop, I just want you to relax, and you want to kind of feel like you're in a stance that feels natural to you, how you would normally stand if you were, for example, visiting with a friend. And then I want you to first close your eyes, and I want you to feel the weight distribution in your feet. Okay, see if you can tune into how your body's loading. Your left foot, your right foot, the front of the foot, the back, inside, outside. And just make a mental note. What do you feel? Where are you heavy? Where are you light? Where's the pressure? Now you want to open your eyes and look down at your feet and see if they're pointed straight ahead, 12 o'clock, like our anatomical design, or are they turned out, sometimes turned inward? Is one turned out more than the other? Or is it bilateral? Are they equally everted? Just kind of get a sense of that. And then what I want you to do is turn them straight ahead now, 12 o'clock. So if you look down, should look like you're skiing straight ahead, and you only want them about 5 to 6 inches wide. So the center of your hip, your hip bones right here on the front of your hip, should line up with the center of your knee, center of the ankle, right through the second and third toe. So you're gonna get that 12 o'clock position. And then what I'm gonna have you do is some arm circles. So you're gonna make what we call a golfer's grip. It's like a claw. You're gonna take the tips of your fingers and put them in the pads of your hand. You make a claw. You're gonna put your arms straight out from your shoulders. And then what you wanna do is gently draw your shoulder blades together. You don't wanna do this. You wanna keep them straight out. Gently squeeze your shoulders and try not to elevate your neck muscles. Keep them relaxed. And then you're gonna circle about a 6-inch diameter going forward. And you want to keep your elbows straight. And what we're going to do is we're going to link the wrist to the elbow to the shoulder. And you're going to keep going. We're going to do about 20 or so. And keep the shoulder blades pinched.
Okay, your palms should be facing down, so your thumbs are pointed forward.
Yep. Can everybody see that? Palms down, going forward. And then for the second position, you want to rotate your palms up so your thumbs are pointed backwards. Make sure your elbows are straight. Now you're going to go up, back, down, and around. So we're going to circle backwards. Now, if your biceps are tight, the elbows are going to try to bend. So you want to do your best to keep them straight and keep your neck muscles and your shoulders relaxed down. And keep the shoulder blades pinched.
And this exercise we tend to do a little quickly. You know, you want to get that momentum going. So that's intentional.
And it's okay to kind of feel like your body's gently oscillating front to back. So we'll do about 10 more.
Anybody's shoulders getting tired already?
Good. Okay. We're going to use that same hand position. Look down and make sure again your feet are straight. You're going to put your third finger or your ring finger on your temple. And you're going to gently bring your elbows together, shoulder height. So you want to make sure your elbows are also even. You want to make sure they're not like this. Keep the neck muscles relaxed down. And you want to think of your knuckles as like a hinge on a door. And you're leading from the shoulders. So you're opening and closing that door. You want to make sure you keep your wrists straight and your thumbs pointed downward. You want to go all the way forward if you can. You don't want to cause any pain. You can work into it and go all the way back. Like you're going to try to touch the wall behind you. I'm going to get those shoulder blades moving.
Yeah, so Kathy, your knuckles, put them just behind your eyes. And then when you bring your arms in front of you, they can rotate like they're kind of rocking on your forehead. Yeah, there you go. Like you don't need to try to keep them glued to your face because then you're not going to be able to move your arms. So
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to feel my shoulders. I did a pretty hard workout this morning. It's good. And then relax, kind of shake it off for a minute. And the next exercise, we're going to do an overhead extension. So you want to interlace your fingers. Push your palms away from you. Straighten out your elbows. You're going to bring your arms up as high as you can, keeping your neck muscles and your trapezius muscles relaxed down and your elbows straight. So even if you only come out to here, that's okay. But you need to keep your elbows straight to get the full benefit. The other thing I want to mention here is you want to make sure that your hips don't come forward of that gravity line. So sometimes the body will try to do this. So you create a vertical position. Keep your hips back, abdominals relaxed. And then gently look up at your fingers. Yeah. And if you can cock the head back comfortably, it can be even more powerful to create a better thoracic or upper back position. Don't force it. And sometimes people, they have to, look straight ahead, and that's okay. Work in progress is what we like to say. So we'll do 15 more seconds. Relax the tummy, elbows are straight. Shoulders relax down. My wife, Kelly, likes to say, don't wear your shoulders for earrings. That's good. And then relax your arms. And then walk in place again. Take 3 or 4 steps. And then relax. And then tune in again to that weight distribution in your feet. And take a look at them and see if that created a change.
yeah, so who feels something different now than when they checked in with their feet, 5 minutes ago? Yeah, Fran?
I feel I'm on more centered on my weight is more centered on both whole feet.
Nice, that's awesome. Where was it before?
Great.
Much more on, I've been flat-footed since birth and I have hypermobile joints. So I was trying to not be, not invert.
Mm-hmm.
And now it was more comfortable without inverting, without trying to change it.
Good, well, that's exciting. Anybody else? We got some people in the chat. More balance, weight from toes to heels, good. So yeah, maybe if you were feeling your weight more on the front of your feet earlier, you could have had kind of a similar posture to the guy we saw earlier, with kind of being forward at your hips and everything in front of the gravity line. So now you're feeling it more in your heels. That's probably a good sign. Awesome. Who else? I felt more symmetrical too. My feet I was a little heavier on my left earlier. Some people just typing. So what does that mean? We just did 3 basically shoulder exercises and your feet feel different. So care to take a stab at that? Fran, why do you think your feet felt different?
I'm not sure how to verbalize it.
Yeah, that's okay. So,
Can I make another comment?
yeah.
I'm bone to bone on one knee.
Mhm.
I've managed to have it not hurt at all for 6 years, until yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And when I just got up to start these exercises, it had started hurting again. And
Mhm.
I did these exercises and it's totally discomfort free,
Wow.
not even pain free, just not even any discomfort.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. So tells you your body wants to like those exercises, huh? So what we did there was just change. We used, stimulus of exercise on mostly your upper body. All the joints were affected, but just by changing your shoulders and your upper back position and teaching your body, okay, let's load both feet evenly. Now, you're going to feel a difference in your feet. You're going to feel hopefully less pain, as Fran did, but it just shows you how quickly your body can adapt. So we also wanted to show just if this is a foot and ankle issue, I think it'd be important to show you just a real basic exercise that we can do specifically to help strengthen and mobilize your ankle and foot, because that's an important joint too. So Martin, why don't you take us through that real quick?
Yeah, you want to walk them through it, Zach, and
actually I just heard someone knocking on my door, so I'm going to step out for a sec.
Okay.
So I'll be right back.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to have everybody come down on their back. If possible. You can start with your knees bent. I'm going to have you extend one leg out straight, and you want to make sure your foot is pointing straight to the ceiling, or 12 o'clock. You're going to bring your other leg, you're going to bring your knee back toward your chest. You're not trying to see how far you can stretch back. You just want to break that 90-degree angle. And you want your heel and your ankle just slightly higher than your knee. And you're going to grab your hamstring, and you're going to do foot circles with that foot.
Ah.
You're going to circle about 20 times. We're going to do clockwise and counterclockwise. Try to relax your shoulders. Make sure you're not rounding them forward. Keep them relaxed down on the ground. And you want to use a full range of motion. I don't know if you could see that.
Yeah, just a little bit. There you go.
You want a full range of motion at your ankle. And if you want extra credit, you can try to spread your toes while you do this.
And notice he's not moving the whole leg, right? It's just the ankle and foot. So sometimes we see people like swinging their whole lower leg around. So you want to circle, I think 20 is a good place to start, right? 20 clockwise, 20 counterclockwise.
Which directions?
And then, go both ways. And then also you're going to point and flex. So just go straight up and down as well. But really, our standard here in the clinic is we try to get people to do 40, but that's, as you can probably feel already, it's not easy. So start with what you can do. You might feel some burning your muscles in your shin or your ankle or calf, which is normal. It just shows how probably weak some of those areas are. But this will help restore the natural movement of the ankle and strengthen some of those supporting structures. Of course, you want to do both sides. So let's see, how's everybody doing? Like oh, that's just a virtual background. Picture of a dog just chilling there. Well, I see a lot of people out of their camera, which means they must be on the floor, which is good. Anybody have any questions about this one so far? Is it feeling okay? Okay, good.
I want to remind them, Zach, about the extended leg.
Yeah, so the opposite leg, whatever leg you're not circling with, should be straight. So straighten out your leg on the floor if you can. Just let the leg rest there, but just prevent it from turning out, keep the foot and knee at 12 o'clock. Okay, so same number of reps, out, in, and back and forth. So now we're at the top of the hour now. We just got think one more slide here and we'll wrap up. But
I'm feeling it.
what about socks? Sometimes they feel tight. Socks, I don't know. I don't talk about socks as much as shoes. I don't think, I mean, I suppose if their socks are really tight, that could restrict your foot movement, but they're also flexible enough that I don't know if it would really. What do you think, Martin? Does socks, do you have any opinion on socks? I don't, something that's comfortable.
No, I tend not to wear socks anymore.
Yeah.
But I think when you go, obviously barefoot, there's, so many receptors on the bottoms of our feet. And those receptors send, messages to our brain, proprioception. And so, even with the sock, it can get muted. So I think it's critically important to, even go sockless, so even if it's just around the house, right? So you can stimulate, those receptors essentially.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I know not all socks are created equal. Some have, they try to put like arch support in your socks and stuff. Well, they'll like make an elastic like around that part of your foot. So
Yeah.
that's probably not similar to the shoes. You want something that's going to interfere as little as possible with your foot's natural movement. So
Yeah, and the toe socks can be powerful too.
Yeah.
Right, the Injinjis, they're fun to put on, but they can give you a bit of toe spread as well.
All right. Well, so next steps. So what are you going to do after we log out here? Well, there's kind of 3 different action steps that I think you should take, at least one of these. But so let's say you might still be skeptical after this, which would be totally fine. We're throwing a lot of new information at you here, and it could go against some of what you believe or have been told in the past. So it's good to have questions. If you want to learn more though, a really good resource is the book Pain Free. It was written by our founder, T. Egoscue. That's where the name comes from, by the way, Egoscue Method. You can get that on Amazon for $15, I think, or at your bookstore, library. But basically, read the first 3 chapters. It'll explain the method, how it came about, how it works. And there's a chapter dedicated to every body part, including the feet and ankles. So you can go and read specifically more in detail about how this all affects your feet and ankles. And there's some exercises in there you can try to address foot and ankle pain and issues. So granted, it's a book, so it's not specific to your body per se, but it's been helpful for many people, and I think it's a great resource, and it's relatively almost free. So, good place to start if you're skeptical. So now you may feel like this is making sense. You've liked what you've seen and heard, but you're still not sure if this is for you or not. Maybe you've got some kind of issue that's unique, or you're not sure if Egoscue can help. We're happy to chat with you about that. And if you'd like to get your posture assessed, just so you can see exactly, just like the pictures, we can put lines on there and show you, where all your joints are relative to each other. And so call or email and schedule a free evaluation or a consult, and we can do that on Zoom or in the clinics if you're close by. But if you're just looking for more information, we're happy to provide it. Now, the last step, of course, is if you're ready to make a change. You're feeling like you've been dealing with this pain a long time. You think that this might be the answer, and you're ready to put in the work to make it happen. Then we'd be happy to partner with you to help you get there. So our process, and I'll put the prices here so you know ahead of time. But these are the 2 packages we offer. It's the same in any Egoscue licensed clinic around the country, but we're giving you just Portland and Seattle. We're giving 10% off to any of you if you decide to sign up as a thank you. And just a real quick description of kind of what to expect with our program. First appointment usually takes about an hour and a half. go through a health history, talk more about your situation, go through the posture assessment. We'll take photos. We'll look at your gait as we talked about, look at some other movements and just really figuring out what the cause of your pain is. And then we'll prescribe specific exercises to you. So everybody's body is different. Everybody's going to need different exercises. And so it's really tailored to the individual. It's not a cookie cutter approach. And so just wanted to throw that out there. And so over the 8 or 16 sessions, we'll be re-evaluating. We take new pictures, we see what's getting better, see what's not. Make sure you're doing the exercises correctly, because that's very important as well. The form is going to make a big difference. And then as your body changes, it's natural that the exercises will change and adapt over time. As your pain goes down and you start to get more functional, we tend to shift more towards a strength focus, and then just kind of getting you into a maintenance, a habit or some, routine that you can do for the rest of your life to stay out of pain once you get there. So that's kind of what to expect. And it can all be done virtually on Zoom, just like this, or in person. So it doesn't matter if you're in the UK or down the street, we can help you either way. So I think that was it. So look in the chat here.
And then one last thing, Zach, I wanted to mention is I see a few names here that former clients that we hadn't heard from in a while.
Oh yeah.
And just like to acknowledge that, the past year and a half has been very, very challenging for a lot of people. A lot more stress, a lot more fear. In clinic, we've seen people just with significant, pain spikes over the past year and a half, worrying. Or a lot of people just quit exercising altogether. And so just, want to invite those people to reach out, come back in, get a refresher, and get back on track. So it's critically important, no matter what's going on, that we, focus on keeping our bodies healthy and well.
Yeah, super important, right? It's never too late, even if you fell off the bandwagon, haven't been doing your exercises in a long time, you can always start again, so it's never, or maybe you feel like you need something's different now than it was when you first came in. There's a comment on here, former client of mine, just wanted to read that. It says, I've been doing the foot flexing and arm swinging exercise every morning. Went through 8 sessions with Zach before that, and the back pain I used to have is gone. That's awesome. I'm still wearing the orthotics, so might try to ease out of them. Yeah, so if you need any help with that or suggestions, let me know. Happy to walk you through that. But someone else said, I've had only one appointment with Kelly and doing the exercises daily. The changes in my alignment and posture and energy level is amazing. Great. To hear some good feedback. So, well, I'll put, let me put our contact info here. But like I said, you all should have already gotten the email to RSVP, or maybe you found us on Facebook. So you can contact us, or just go to egoscue.com and just find our clinics and contact info there. Here's our email addresses. If you'd like to schedule your evaluation or your first appointment, reach out. Or if you just have questions, happy to answer questions as well. We can hang out for a couple minutes, I think. If anybody has any questions that didn't get answered yet, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully that was helpful, and hope to hear or see you guys soon. So anybody else have any questions for those of you who are still here?
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Take care, everybody.